Thank you very much for being here, Shelley. So we spoke with you about the current market in our mid-June issue, and we spoke particularly about inflation and kind of how that's affecting homeowners. So could you talk a little bit about some of what homeowners need to know about the current market and how it could affect their insurance?
Well, a lot of people have been doing home improvement, so they need to pay attention to what they've done and if it's improved the value of their home. One big thing around here is market value and replacement cost have always been very different. So
Okay.
where replacement costs might be $150 to $175 a square foot, our market might have, you could buy a house for $75 to $100 a square foot. So there's a disparity there. So I
Right.
think a lot of people might have their market value starting to catch up with their replacement cost, so it might not hit us as much there. But you need to think about if you have a claim in this environment. That's where the problems come in. Water backup claims, traditionally people have no coverage or $5,000 of coverage. That doesn't even get you through the cleanup of it, let alone
Right.
if you've refinished your basement during COVID, you know that's where your kids were going. You put the game room down there, you got your washer and dryer, things like that. You added a pool.
Right.
You didn't tell anyone about that. So that does change your policy. You want to make sure you have the coverage you need. It's okay if you decide not to purchase something. You just want to know at time of a loss that you have what coverage you do and you do not have.
Right. You don't want to get the sticker
Yeah,
shock
yeah,
when something
absolutely.
does happen.
Yeah.
So have you found that kind of these two things were playing together where COVID happened, a lot of people started improving their homes, and then now we have inflation, and so is this kind of a bigger problem than it normally would be?
I think the biggest problem is you can't get things fixed. So
Right.
if you have a claim, no one can fix your house.
That's
and
true,
so the
yeah.
timeline to get it done is so long, and depending what you have to get done, you didn't plan to have to buy that material. So if you needed new cabinets, those are 6 and 8 months out. So you need a new kitchen, new bathroom, you can't get it done.
Right. And especially if it's an emergency,
Right.
something unexpected.
Right.
Right. So I guess what are some of the improvements that somebody might do to their house that they should be aware of affecting their insurance?
I would say that the improvements in the basement, if we had it rated as an unimproved basement where it's just block, and now you've just spent $75,000, $50,000 renovating your basement carpet, and you've put drywall up and drop ceilings and all of those things, the new TV down there, the gaming systems,
Right.
that changes a lot, especially with relates to water backup. You got to think about if there's any sort of claims with, and part of your house has been done and the other part hasn't, there's a coverage called ordinance and law that if you haven't upgraded your electrical system and you have a claim, if you don't have the right coverage in your policy, it won't pay for something like that.
Okay.
And so that's something to pay attention to. Service line coverage, cyber coverages have become very big. In now people are stealing money. They're finding an opportunity to do that. So it's just the world has changed. So the claims
Right.
have changed, the world have changed. It's a different time right now.
Do you find customers are usually proactive about reaching out to their insurance providers about those things, or do you think
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, I
No-
didn't
no one
think
wants to
so,
talk to
but
us.
I could have been surprised.
We call everyone, email everyone every
Yeah.
year. We are trying to talk to people because sometimes they feel okay, so they don't call back, they don't feel comfortable. But we take the approach. We've called you 2 or 3 or 4 years in a row, and this year you do have a question, and so you do return that call. But we want people to know it sounds so silly. We answer our phone.
Right.
With a person every time. We have a person that's a receptionist that answers it, and that seems such a
What a
small
novel
thing
idea.
anymore.
Right.
But it's a big deal these days. So we just want people to know that they can get a hold of us, so we can answer those questions and talk about them, because it's a different time.
So obviously everything, costs of just about everything are up.
Yeah.
You know, as you said, lead times are up. I guess how has, from your perspective, how has the insurance industry been handling what's been going on in the economy?
They're increasing your premiums.
Okay, right.
Yeah. They have a very easy way to track the losses. I mean,
Sure.
if there's so many claims, if you have a fire, they pretty much know what it's going to cost because they have all the data for everyone else who's had a house fire
Right.
within the company. So they know, so they put an amount in that they think your claim will be, and then they calculate based on that. So they know what they're spending and where they want their profitability to be, or lack of profitability, and the reserves that they
Right.
need to have in case there's big claims. And so they can react to it pretty quickly. On the homeowner side, it's just claims have gotten bigger because of the supply chain. On the auto side, you got the supply chain issue, but you also have the fact that technology has increased over the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
You used to be able to get a windshield that cost $300. They just pop one out, put a new one in. That $300 windshield now has your speedometer on it, and it's got really fancy technology
Right.
within the windshield, and now it's a $1,500 windshield.
Right.
And that's outside. That's not the COVID supply chain issue. That's just new technology, and it's new batteries and the new kind of parts that they make. So,
Well, you mentioned home and auto. I know you work with businesses also.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about maybe how what's going on with the costs is affecting how it's affecting some of the businesses you're working with?
I think the companies are really closely looking at the replacement costs of business buildings, and so that has been easy to determine as with the homeowner product. So now they're paying really special attention to that. So that's a big deal. Also, customers, we talked earlier about contractors doing very well right now.
Right.
A lot of manufacturers are doing very well. So as they do well, their sales have increased. Their sales might increase, but their net profit might be the same because
Right.
they're paying more for their stuff. But our product is based on sales, gross sales. And so when you buy general liability insurance, it's based on how much you've sold. And
Right.
so if you sold $100 of goods and made $10 off of it, and now you sold $200 of goods and made $10 off of it, your price is going up even if your profitability didn't. And so that's difficult. But what we're seeing is there are not a lot of rate changes on those. It's just the sales are up.
What about every industry? The other thing that everyone's facing is a bit of a labor crunch. Is that also taking place in the insurance industry?
Yes,
Are you guys looking for
absolutely.
workers?
Well, we are very fortunate at Page and Burns that we have a stable group in our office, and we have hired, and we've got great people. But we're seeing it with our companies that have gone remote. They've trained all these folks. They've been working in the insurance industry for a long time, and if they don't want to come back to the office, or if they've moved farther away, or their family situation has changed, they're getting poached by other insurance companies, offering them more money or better benefits or more work at home. So we're seeing a lot of turnover in our companies, and so they're trying to hire and get people trained.
Right.
And which means it takes us more time to get things done because we have to second and third request. You can't get a question answered as fast. So
Is it a matter of, kind of in other industries, it's a little bit of like the baby boomers are starting to retire, and there's just not maybe younger generations don't find insurance exciting? Is there any of that? Or I'm just saying,
I
where's
think
the
people have
shortage
probably been
coming
saying
from?
that for 50 years
Well,
in the insurance industry. I
that's
don't
not
think
what I
that's
meant.
anything.
But,
Well, but in our business, we always talk about, you talk to other agency owners and you sort of accidentally
Yeah.
ended up in the insurance field.
Sure.
And that's what happens with a lot of people. They don't
Right.
train to do it. They
I
just-
accidentally ended up here.
Right.
This is not on
See?
purpose. Yeah.
Not on your radar.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. But yeah, I was just kind of wondering, is it just not enough young people entering the field, or what is it?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't as bad until the work from home was stopping, and then that's become where we've seen the challenge. So
Okay.
I'm not sure which companies they're moving to. I just know we're losing a lot of them from a couple of our main carriers.
Sure. So I guess, looking forward, what do you see in the near term future for the insurance industry? What should people be aware of or looking out for?
Well, I think they just need to talk to their agent, and they need to make sure that they're having the conversation. People seem to be a bit more understanding right now because everything else is increasing. And so it's not just us. We're not the only bad guy out there.
Right.
But we'll certainly explain things to you and talk about other options for you. But I think people also understand that they want a claim paid, and if it's not paid, it's a very stressful situation. So they're better off talking to their agent and understanding what they do and do not have in those cases. So I'm hoping they understand it's nice to be able to get to a person.
Sure.
People want to be able to get an answer to their question.
717 Credit Union. Business services designed to meet your daily needs. Commercial loans, business deposits, merchant and payroll services. 717 Credit Union. It's knowing you were treated right every time.